dash for freedom. A Florida causeway closed after more than 200 illegal Haitian immigrants jump overboard and rush onto the highway. Making the case, federal charges that could mean a death sentence for one of the D.C. area sniper suspects, and new revelations that Muhammad and Malvo may have committed even more murders. Solving the mystery. American Flight 587, the second deadliest air crash in the U.S. Dramatic new evidence of what the pilots did when trouble hit almost a year ago. Eruption. Mount Etna's blockbuster show. Spectacular pictures, and the panic is real. And get out of town. Why some poor families in California's Central Valley are being given tax money to leave and not come back.
This is NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw, reporting tonight from San Jose.
Good evening from California, a state constantly struggling with the issue of illegal immigration, primarily from Mexico and Central America. And tonight across the country in Florida, a dramatic example of the illegal immigration dilemma there. A boatload of people, mostly Haitians, came ashore near Miami, and their run for freedom quickly turned into a late afternoon television and traffic spectacle. NBC's Kerry Sanders reporting from Miami tonight.
Large boat here, it was full.
Off the coast of Miami, desperation as an estimated 200 immigrants jump overboard. Customs officials say most are from Haiti. The 50-foot-long wooden freighter monitored by the Coast Guard as it neared the coast here. Less than 50 yards from shore, the freighter ran aground. Witnesses say the decks, already filled with passengers, became even more crowded as those down below rushed topside and began to jump overboard.
You know, you have to be so desperate to leave what little you have or the family that you have to just try to come here.
Motorists traveling on the causeway between Miami and Key Biscayne say some of those who made it to shore flagged down cars and sped off. The Coast Guard says it's too early to know if friends and family on shore had coordinated a brazen daylight pickup of the illegal immigrants. In the last 12 months, the Coast Guard has picked up more than 1,500 Haitians fleeing the island nation, only 700 miles from Miami.
It's not an economic issue. What it is a political chaos in Haiti.
But no matter why they came, under current U.S. law, after making claims of political asylum, most will likely be sent back to their homeland. Kerry Sanders, NBC News, Miami.
In Washington tonight, the sniper story, far from over, even with the suspects behind bars. Now the federal government is filing charges, and there are suspicions that John Muhammad and John Malvo may have been involved in an earlier murder in the Pacific Northwest. Here's NBC's Pete Williams.
United States Marshals today moved John Muhammad to the U.S. courthouse closest to the concentration of sniper shootings in Maryland as the federal government filed charges of its own for the killing spree. With state and federal cases piling up, Muhammad's public defender cautioned against a rush to judgment.
This is a situation when there is so much emotion and so much passion that breeds the chance for error and mistake.
Today's charges accuse the two of committing a series of murders to extort money from the government based on a note found at one of the shooting scenes asking for $10 million to be placed in the account of a stolen credit card. And word today of new evidence. Investigators say a brown cotton glove found in Muhammad's car appears to match a glove found at the spot where a bus driver was killed last week. The Attorney General said the new charges provide another way to bring the men to trial.
The filing of this federal complaint gives us the opportunity to assemble additional facts and evidence upon which to make a considered judgment.
Though a decision on where the two should go on trial will not be made before next week, officials say a likely option is to let state prosecutors in Virginia go first. Meantime, in Tacoma, Washington, police now suspect Muhammad and Malvo in a murder there in February. 21-year-old Kenya Cook was shot with a handgun. Police say the bullet that killed her has been traced to a gun that belonged to a man who says he loaned the weapon to Muhammad.
The Tacoma Police Department now consider John Allen Muhammad and John Lee Malvo as suspects in the Kenya Cook homicide.
The victim was related to a woman who took sides against Muhammad in a child custody dispute. And investigators say that man in Tacoma told them that Muhammad called his young friend Malvo by a nickname, Sniper. Pete Williams, NBC News, Washington.
Now to Minnesota, where officials of the state Democratic Party said tonight that former Vice President Walter Mondale will appear before them tomorrow to accept their nomination to replace Senator Paul Wellstone on the ballot. Tonight in Minneapolis, the public memorial service for Wellstone, his wife Sheila, daughter Marcia, and 3 campaign aides, all killed in Friday's plane crash. NBC's Kelly O'Donnell joins me now from there. Kelly?
Tom, tonight dozens of Paul Wellstone's colleagues from the Senate, former President Bill Clinton, 2 former vice presidents, Al Gore and Walter Mondale, political elite here tonight to honor a man whose supporters say never forgot the little guy. Once the symbol of an upstart campaign, tonight the trademark Wellstone green bus, a mobile shrine.
I just want the world to know how many of us love Paul.
Friends, constituents, mourners, here for Senator Wellstone, his wife and staffers to remember and rally.
It's about celebrating who they were and about, carrying on their spirit in the days to come.
President Bush will not be here tonight, but remembered the senator today.
Paul Wellstone was a deeply principled and a good-hearted man. He'll be missed by all who knew him and by all who had the privilege of serving with him.
Inside this arena at the University of Minnesota, organizers planned for up to 20,000, with one notable absence. Vice President Dick Cheney planned to come, but sources say the Wellstone family appreciated his offer, but asked him not to attend. Worried, they say, the security sweep required would overwhelm the event, and hinted the vice president might feel awkward, thrust into what they expect to be a celebration of unabashed liberal values.
Tonight is not about politics. Tonight is about Paul Wellstone.
The Wellstone family also angered by a letter from the Minnesota Republican Party to the Democrats, requesting a series of 5 debates between the presumed Wellstone replacement, Walter Mondale, and Republican candidate Norm Coleman. The letter arrived yesterday, just as Senator Wellstone was laid to rest. Timing of the move even makes the Republican candidate uneasy.
I wish everyone would have waited, by the way, till tomorrow. I really do.
That's when Norm Coleman begins again, facing a new opponent and a wave of Wellstone emotion he acknowledges will be hard to overcome.
I still have an opportunity to represent the people of the state. I have worked hard for that. I will continue to work hard for it, and I'll accept the outcome.
In an already extraordinary set of circumstances tonight, the Minnesota Democratic Party filing suit to require that absentee ballots with Walter Mondale's name be sent out. But the Secretary of State says there's not enough time, and officials already say absentee votes for Wellstone cannot be counted. Tom?
Thanks very much, NBC's Kelly O'Donnell tonight. Back in Washington tonight, federal safety officials looking into the crash of American Airlines Flight 587 in New York last November still are trying to answer the central question: what caused the plane's tail to snap off? The crash killed all 260 people on board the Airbus A300 and 5 people on the ground. More tonight from NBC's Robert Hager.
Nearly a year after the second deadliest air crash ever in the U.S., investigators opened hearings with a promise.
The safety board will pursue every lead in search of answers for the cause.
Then, as hushed relatives of victims watched, home video of the doomed airliner taking off, even as a huge jumbo jet just ahead is already leaving a trail or wake of air turbulence the American pilots will soon encounter. Now, this NTSB simulation of the last moments, chilling but precise, taken directly from the plane's black boxes with text of what the pilots were saying. Little wake turbulence, huh? Yeah, the pilots take it in stride, but with the next jolt, will react strongly, swinging the plane's rudder. Sound of a thump. 2 more thumps. A call for max power. Yeah, I'm fine. Hang on to it, hang on to it. Let's go for power, please. But with a bang and a thud, the tail snaps off, and the plane makes its fatal dive. But had the pilots overreacted to the wake turbulence, made it worse by swinging the rudder? Former investigator Greg Fife.
We need to go back into the cockpit and show and look at what we're training our pilots, how they use the rudder, the circumstances in which they use the rudder.
Here's how a rudder on any plane is driven back and forth by pedals in the cockpit. And a demonstration of how in this accident the rudder swung so many times. First right, then immediately left. Then right again, then left again, and finally back right. 5 times before the tail gave way and ripped off. Now, watch again in slow motion how such rudder movement shook the plane. Today, investigators said that's what did it in, not wake turbulence. In hindsight, then, a mistake. But until now, no one knew it could break up a plane. Former NTSB Chairman Jim Burnett.
You know, this is the most dramatic structural failure that we've ever had in my experience with a major carrier aviation. Certainly is not something that we would want to see repeated.
Already pilots have been warned now to use rudders more sparingly. But there's still the unsettling question of whether planes should be built stronger to withstand such maneuvers. Robert Hager, NBC News, Washington.
In Moscow tonight, the first funerals of those killed during the rebel siege inside a crowded theater. A senior Kremlin official defended the Russian government's decision to pump knockout gas inside. He said there was not a single scenario that was guaranteed to save the lives of all involved. In Vietnam, a short circuit may have sparked a deadly fire in Ho Chi Minh City, former Saigon. 54 were killed, nearly twice as many injured when flames raced through a large downtown building. Vietnamese television says firefighters didn't have the right equipment or enough water. Dozens of people may still be trapped, among them 6 employees of an American insurance company. Back in this country on Wall Street today, a sharp drop in consumer confidence sent the markets down, but the blue chips rallied back in the last hour of trading. As a result, the Dow managed to finish with a gain of just under 1 point. NASDAQ, however, was down more than 15 points on the day. Still ahead tonight, Italy's Mount Etna rumbles to life again with a big tremor that sends residents scrambling. And up next, a look at another Senate race profoundly changed by a tragic plane crash. NBC's Lisa Myers with Missouri's Gene Carnahan. NBC News in depth tonight. The midterm election is a week from today, and one of the races that could determine the control of the Senate is in Missouri, where Democrat Gene Carnahan is up for re-election. She, of course, went to Washington when her late husband was elected after dying in a plane crash shortly before the election. Now she's trying to hang on to that seat. In depth, here's NBC's Lisa Myers.
Hi, how you doing? Nice to see you.
She is the accidental senator, propelled into office by tragedy, trying at age 68 to earn it on her own.
Thank you so much. Bless your heart.
Her Republican opponent, former Congressman Jim Talent, glib, cerebral, claims to have momentum.
You may just elect yourself a United States Senator. What do you think about that?
He mostly knocks her on the issues.
And Gene Carnahan, no on Homeland Security, no on ending the death tax, no to Missouri jobs. Jim Talent, experience when it matters most.
But the not-so-subtle undercurrent is she up to the job.
This really is a referendum on Gene Carnahan. She was thrown into the limelight, and she had to learn a lot in a short period of time. The question is, did she learn enough?
Some Republicans question your effectiveness. They say you're a nice lady, but that you haven't mastered the job.
Well, certainly, I expected that sort of thing from the very beginning. You can't let that stop you. You have to keep going on.
There have been mistakes, including a swipe at the president after he repeatedly campaigned for her opponent.
I'm the #1 target of the White House. They can't get Osama bin Laden, they're going to get me.
She later apologized.
Jean Carnahan was swept into office by Republican women who flocked to her cause after her husband's death. Talent has worked hard to bring those women home, which is why this race is razor close.
He campaigns with high-profile Republican women while she's skeet shooting to reassure rural voters she's not against guns. But overshadowing it all is the looming presence of the late Mel Carnahan and the tragic circumstances of her candidacy.
I've said sometimes they're kind of like the elephant that's always in the room. But, you know, I think elections are more about the future than about the past.
With a week to go, a campaign ad mentions Mel Carnahan for the first time.
Mom's always had a great deal of respect for people in the military. My father was an Air Force officer.
When do you miss your husband most?
Sometimes I'll come in the evening to an empty house, and I used to always say when I come in, I'm home, dear, and I find myself saying that.
Honoring her husband's legacy while at the same time trying to create her own. Lisa Myers, NBC News, St. Louis.
For a state-by-state guide to the key races across the country, you can log on to our website at msnbc.com. Coming up, a volcano in action, a spectacular sight, but not if you live nearby. In Sicily tonight, the lava and ash spewing from Mount Etna aren't the only dangers that people living in its shadow are facing. A new series of earthquakes is triggering high anxiety. Here's NBC's Keith Miller.
Earthquakes jolted Europe's most active volcano back into action. The eruption sounded like distant artillery, shooting flaming stones 300 feet into the sky. Rivers of lava 1,200 feet wide and 20 feet high flowed down Mount Etna, consuming a ski resort and setting a pine forest on fire. Satellite photos showed the plume of ash heading south, reaching all the way to Africa. People stayed in the churches in nearby villages, praying for the lava to stop. But as volcanic ash fell from the sky, today another quake. This one measured 4.4 on the Richter scale. People panicked. Hundreds of homes and shops were damaged. It's ruined everything, cried this woman. But there were no reports of serious injuries. Tankers dropped tons of water to dampen forest fires. Tonight, the Italian government, in a crisis cabinet meeting, declared a state of emergency for the volcano area. All schools will remain shut and the local airport closed. Volcanic activity is difficult to predict, but tonight the rate of the lava flow appears to be slowing, yet still spectacular in the night sky. Keith Miller, NBC News, London.
Here in California tonight, it's a little slice of heaven for Anaheim Angels fans. Their team celebrated their unlikely World Series win at Disneyland. The Angels had never been to the World Series in their 42-year history. Before this year, they beat the San Francisco Giants in 7 games, of course, in the series. I'll be back with more after this.
NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw, brought to you in part by Aflac. Ask about it at work.
Here in the San Jose area, the end of the dot-com bubble hurt. Unemployment now is more than 7.5%. But the city hopes to expand its convention center and add another 1,000 hotel rooms, confident the boom times will return. Housing prices have stayed high, but office space is another matter. It is the bust that followed the boom. The valley has become a land of wide-open parking lots, recently constructed empty buildings, a sea of marquees screaming for lease and for sale at every turn. More than 64 million square feet of commercial real estate vacant. That translates into a decade-high vacancy rate of 25%, up from just 6.5% in early 2000. The empty valley, however, has also become the land of opportunity. Opportunity for new businesses looking to take advantage of rents that are 80% below their peak. Prices that may bring about a slow recovery as businesses turn bargains into new beginnings. And not far from here in the California Farm Belt, one county has come up with a unique and controversial way of dealing with unemployment and prospective welfare recipients. Pay them to leave. California's Central Valley is the richest food-producing region in the world. The land so fertile, crops grow year-round. It is also one of the poorest places in the country. Unemployment in some farm towns, almost 40%. David Dardez has worked construction all of his life, but steady work has dried up. And last month, Dardez went on welfare to support his family of 5. With 100,000 people looking for work here, Dardez is looking elsewhere.
A lot of unemployment, a lot of people looking for work, and it's really hard to get into a place. So I figure Las Vegas is more opportunity for me.
Tulare County has a controversial solution for Dardez and others on public assistance.
I, David Dardez, will be moving to Las Vegas, Nevada for the sole purpose of obtaining employment and becoming self-sufficient.
It is paying them to leave the county, giving them a one-way ticket out of town.
You can catch it at Bank of America.
The program, called MOVE, pays an average of $2,300 for a moving van, cash for gas and motels, rent and deposits for housing. In return, the county saves as much as $2,000 a month in cash assistance, food stamps, medical insurance, and other costs.
The amount of money that we give them to move is a one-time payment, they're getting off of assistance, which in the long run is much more expensive.
Since 1998, the program has moved 1,300 adults, more than 800 families, matching welfare recipients with companies looking for workers and moving them anywhere in the country where unemployment is less than 5%. It helped Dardez line up a job driving a tow truck in Las Vegas. Philip and Tricia Burton left Porterville, California for jobs in Iowa, but the program does not guarantee employment.
It's going to be an adjustment, of course, but, you know, we have to think about our children and stuff, and what's going to be better for them in the long run and for us.
Why aren't more counties trying it? Critics say that Tulare County is exporting its poor and ignoring the causes of poverty.
It's a shell game. They're poor in your backyard, move them to someone else's backyard, and then they're their problem.
But Tulare officials claim the program is saving taxpayers $7 million a year and giving families a real chance at a fresh start. That's nightly news for this Tuesday night from San Jose. I'm Tom Brokaw, and I'll see you tomorrow night from Los Angeles.